Welcome to DG Stadium, a virtual arena where we honor the giants who built the data industry by inviting analysts from around the world to match their skills over the burning questions of today. Who will be our analysts for today's battle? What expertise and insights will they bring? Will they be pragmatic or principled, tactical or strategic, technical or business-oriented?
Please welcome today's analysts.
Juha Korpela, based in Helsinki, Finland, is well known throughout the Nordics. He leapt to fame as part of the Eli.ai team, reinvigorating the data modeling space, and has since gone on to found his own consulting company, DataCore.
Hi, I'm Juha. I believe that data only has value when it's connected to the real-life business. I believe we have put way too much emphasis on just the technological aspects of data, and a lot of the time, instead of talking about data-driven business, we really should be talking more about business-driven data.
Today's second analyst is Malcolm Chisholm, based in Orlando, Florida. Malcolm has an IT background, but long ago moved to strategic data consulting and owns the consulting company Data Millennium.
I started as a developer in IT, and that's always had some influence on the way I think about data. Today, of course, I'm more concerned about data governance strategy, moving into AI. It's a brave new world there. I think that also we can learn from other disciplines. Traditional logic and metaphysics have always appealed to me. Even though my background is scientific, I see less application of the scientific method in data management and data governance. But I think we need as much as possible from these other disciplines to be able to formulate responses to how we're going to deal with data in the modern world.
In recent years, the usage of the modern data stack has led to a new concept, but a concept that is not yet fully mature. We need a definition that the industry can accept. Today's battle is
data products. What is the right definition?
The rules of the battle are simple. Each analyst will put forward their position for 3 minutes. After that, they will each have 2 minutes to react to their opponent. Next, we pass to judgment. Today's distinguished judges are Laine, Karin Hakansson, Svetlana Tarnagurskaja.
To be able to understand what is a data product, in my view, we have to start from the question why it is important. So the thing about data products and data product management is not technology. It is not about different sorts of components, different technologies being used in a certain way. It is about how we organize ourselves, the operating model. Product management in software development, or traditional software development, is old news. We've been doing that for decades. We just haven't been applying that consistently in data. We all know that product management is good. We all know that it is something we need, but we haven't figured yet a proper way to actually kind of apply that in everyday data life. So to be able to do that, we must figure out what is the product in data so that we can apply product management methodologies. That question then is, what is a data product? So what makes data stuff? What turns the data stuff into something that we can manage utilizing product management methods? So defining that package of stuff, I think it is made of 3 parts. It needs to have inputs, so there's data coming from outside into the data product. There are internal components within the data product that do things to that data in order to then push it out via the outputs. So outputs are then, of course, giving that data out to the users of that data. Now, I'm a data product maximalist in a way. I think that the users of that data can be absolutely anything. It can be human beings, it can be machines, it can be other data products. It doesn't matter. All that matters is that we're pushing data out to them. That data can be pushed via any kind of output interfaces. I don't think it matters at all. APIs, database views, chatbots, reports, it doesn't really matter. Also, it doesn't really matter what the inputs are like. Are there, ERP systems and pipelines coming in, IoT streams, other data products maybe there? It doesn't really matter. All that matters is that data comes in. And within that data product, Doesn't really matter what the components are. All that matters is that there are some components there within that product. The technology altogether doesn't matter. All that matters is that we're able to practically manage this as a whole product. And one important aspect of product management work altogether is change management. So if we define a data product as too small piece of the puzzle, it means that it becomes too coupled with the surrounding systems so that we can't actually make any decisions that concern that data product alone. It is too tightly coupled with everything else. On the other hand, if it is too large, it means that the data product becomes messy, it has unclear boundaries, and there's all sorts of things happening. It's not very easy to manage as a single thing at that point either. So, in my view, the solution to defining data products is to figure out the inputs, the internal components and outputs that are specific and unique to a particular solution, to a particular use case or need, so that we can then apply product management methods to that. And by that, I mean it needs to have a product manager / owner. It needs to have a description as a product so that the product can be discovered by its users and so on and so forth. It needs to have its own priorities and product visions and so on and so forth. This is product management applied to data, and that is a data product.
I've had the privilege to work with data vendor companies, and for them, the data sets that they produced and sold were data products. So that's what's kind of influenced me, and that's how I would personally define a data product. But I also have to realize that data product as a term has taken on a new life and is not really used in that way today. Even the customers of the data vendors wouldn't call what they bought from them data products. They probably call them external data sets. So what is a data product? Well, why do we have to define a data product? Shouldn't we know what it is already? I think that there's a couple of issues in the terminology. The first one is that today there's a tendency to inflate terms to make them sound more grandiose, the sort of emotional power of words, the reaction that they create rather than the information we convey with them is something. And I think you can see this in other things like data architect. Well, a data modeler is now called a data architect. I did data modeling. It's doing data models for database design. A data architect, however, lays out the large-scale data structures of a whole enterprise. They're not the same thing, but we call them modelers architects. Similarly, I was a programmer, but today these people are called data engineers. And I think that's to convey a newness, because the data engineers are building batch data pipelines. And I don't think it's easy to get across a idea of modernity and progress if you tell people that you're doing the same job or you're in the same profession as your grandmother. So I think that the term data product is really trying to convey newness and to maybe punch a little bit above its weight. So what is it? It's clearly something that comprises of an input, which is data, a process, and an output. And the output could be data, or it could be reports, or it could be something else. Those go into business decision making and so on. But I think that's where we get the clue of what the data product is. It's the whole batch data pipeline, okay? And that, again, people don't want to call it that because that's what it was called in mainframe days when people built those things with COBOL and ISAM files. And I think that if we think about it, it is a noble thing to want to manage a data pipeline in the most professional way, but it's not really data, just data. It's more than data, and it's not really a product, because a product would be something where you created a something which has a type with multiple instances delivered, and that's not really the case, but nevertheless, that's what a data product is.
Tom referred there to data products sometimes being data sets that are sold to customers, and this is an interesting case. Yes, the product itself kind of being sold, it is made of data. But I'd argue that for the purposes of the organization creating these datasets, the most important thing shouldn't be just the individual dataset that is being sold. what they should care about the most is the kind of the factory that produces this data set, the production line. Because you don't want to be creating kind of one-off data sets every time for every single customer. This production line kind of is what I mean by a data product. And there we can see a key difference between the output interface, the individual data set, and the whole thing, the entire data product. And we want to utilize data product management practices so that we can ensure that we can keep those output interfaces operational, which means we have to manage the entire production line as kind of a packaged solution, not just the end result. Thus, a data product must include both the data and the components that build the data. And I think in the end there, Malcolm in a way agrees with this as well. Regarding the issue of kind of term inflation that was mentioned, I fully acknowledge that we have a habit of making things shiny and interesting by giving them grandiose names. But I think sometimes this is warranted. It's marketing. It's marketing pure and simple, but it is marketing for an idea that can improve our data management practices even better. It's a completely technology agnostic idea. It's a matter of ways of working. We've been lacking good product management practices in data. I think everyone agrees on that. And if we can draw people's attention to that matter by labeling this as data product management, talking about data products, then why not? While we will probably never be able to agree on kind of an international standard of what a data product actually means, I think that we can at least get people to think about product management a little bit more. And I think that's a worthy goal already.
Juha certainly makes some very powerful arguments. However, he does say, on the one hand, that a data product is the input, data, plus the process, plus the output, which is data. But on the other hand, he also talks about the data being a product, that is the output being a product. So I think that tends more towards my way of thinking. Now, I do agree that the input plus the process plus the output is a thing. I just wouldn't call it a data product. I would call it a batch data process or a data pipeline if you want. And I think also Juha gives us the etymology of the word product, which comes from product manager in the software world. Product management in terms of developing a product is another discipline. And I think we're seeing here the everything as code being pushed into the data world. I don't think that works. I've been an application developer. I've been a product developer. And when we're coding, it's not the same as data. There's lots of other considerations for coding than lots of considerations in the data world that don't really come into a product developer's head, I would submit. Therefore, I don't think the transfer of knowledge of domain experience from a product manager for software into the data world is valid. I do agree with Juha that the output should be wrapped in a metadata envelope to promote reuse. That's certainly something that we need to see. But I would still maintain that we're looking at an output which is in itself data. I would agree with Juha that it could be an API, it could maybe even be a SQL statement that can be executed. It could be a lot of things, not merely a data set. So I think that I would agree on that point. But I think also talking about data products is perhaps a yearning for something, a yearning for a methodology that rises above the competence with the technologies that exist in the modern data stack. And in fact, years ago, we did have that from people like James Martin, Clive Finkelstein, Ed Jordan, Michael Jackson. Those methodologies are lost. They no longer exist. And in fact, those days, we didn't have considerations like data privacy, even data quality really either. So I think that yearning for that methodology is a genuine thing, but we shouldn't be using the term data product. We should stick to something simple like batch data process and have those methodologies layered onto it. But they will not, I would submit, come from product management. And so I retain my view that a data product is some kind of data output alone.
Juha, really great that you started with a business-driven approach to data, and I like that you incorporated the operating model and the fact that having a product management discipline is something that everybody should consider with a data product. Also, tying it back to creating a business and setting the intent to the data product itself, I thought was extremely important. Malcolm, not crazy about the approach of the term data product being an inflated term used to invoke an emotional response, I guess. I think that the concept of a data product is something really easy that a business person could get their head wrapped around, as well as collaborating with the technical folks, the physical folks, to get that business purpose and the business deliverables around those data assets was key to having a very successful launch of data products. I like that you brought up the different personas. I think the engineer as well as the modeler are key to the creation of that data product. I also agree with your definition from the aspect that it's composed of one or many data sets, reports, also maybe some AI models, and having that wrapped in the business processes that already exist are also something that I think is key to have the business controls around the data product. Still don't think of it as much of a batch process though. Later on, Juha, you mentioned that the most important aspect of a data product is the factory that produces that data product. I couldn't agree more, but neither one of you really touched on having a business workflow to create that data product. Also, maybe modeling out that data product before you begin, using a catalog to identify where that data is coming from, and then observing those data products from a business value perspective ongoing wasn't mentioned from either of you, and I think it's extremely important. That's something that a data marketplace could help you do so that end users don't have to recreate the wheel every time, and they can share and collaborate and maybe even score those data products. So overall, I thought each of your definitions was really great. Thank you for raising up data products as something to talk about. And I'm gonna declare our guy from Helsinki, Juha, the winner of this battle. Thank you.
I really enjoyed this debate. I agree with Juha when he says that it's not about technology, it's about how we organize ourselves so that we can bring product management into data. However, I think Malcolm makes a really good point when he points out that data product used to be something and now it's something else. That does create confusion. And I think Malcolm really nails it when he says that we inflate words within the data community. Completely agree with that one. But I also liked how you responded to that, saying that is it really a problem if it leads to something good? Maybe not. One thing that I think both parties could have elaborated a little bit more on is why will product management work within data, or why will it not? To Malcolm's point, saying that code and data, they're not the same, I agree, but product management is more than code. So it would have been nice to hear a little bit more on what Malcolm means when he says that. And to Juha's points, when he says that, okay, we should organize ourselves so that we can get product management into data, it would have been really nice to hear a little bit more on why. But in the end, I thought the debate was really good. And I think both Juha and Malcolm did an excellent job in pointing out the different arguments in this debate. So I want to congratulate them both on their effort.
Hello, I'm Svet. I'm CEO of the Dot Collective Data Consultancy. It's a pleasure to judge this battle. So here comes my precious opinion. I think neither Juha nor Malcolm mentioned something very important. I think what makes a data product a product is its desirability, it's its users. So for something to be considered like a product, not just a data pipeline or some process. It needs to have very distinct purpose for its existence. It needs to be desirable by someone. There should be a group of people somewhere that find it useful for whatever reason, because it makes them feel better, because it tells them some things they didn't know before. So there should be this very clear value chain associated with it. And it can be dashboard that tells me that, I don't know, 10% of orders haven't been closed within its kind of SLA, and I need to bump them on top of the queue. Or you can look at Flow. It's an app that 60 million of women are using around the world to track the menstrual cycle, and tells me something useful. It sends me alert a few days kind of in advance, say, hey, you might be feeling a bit sentimental. It's okay. Can even actually send an alert to your partner. It's a genius feature in my opinion. Anyway, so I think for something to be a product, it needs to have a group of users who find it valuable. And then as a product manager, you would be looking at metrics of, okay, how often do they use it? How do I get more users? How to attract more users? What are the features they might consider desirable? So in my opinion, this is what makes a data pipeline or batch process or component to data input, data outputs, all of this magic together. It's that desirability, it's that value chain, it's that return on investment that the organization can get from kind of rolling the product out that makes something a product. Juha gets a point because he mentioned business value once or twice in the beginning. Thank you.